everyone, it's Annabelle. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be discussing this, what looks to be a perfectly healthy Cattleya. It's hiding a bit of a secret. It has a rotting back bulb, so we're going to discuss how to remove the rot, potential causes, and how to prevent it spreading to other pseudobulbs and keep this plant nice and healthy. So first of all, I'll give you a little bit of background about this Cattleya. I got this towards the end of last summer. It's a Cattleya or Rhyncholaelia digbyana, which is a beautiful, very fragrant type of Cattleya. Rhyncholaelias are a little bit different from Cattleyas, but they do fall broadly into the Cattleya family, and the points that are raised in this video about treating rotten pseudobulbs and caring for the orchid afterwards really applies to all sympodial orchids. So this one went out of my greenhouse a little bit for the end of last year, and then it came in. It's produced 3 new growths for me. This one had a sheath which I fiddled with and broke off, and the leaf as well, but this new growth has then produced 2 new pseudobulbs this year. I'm a little bit unsure about the identity, just because this pseudobulb it's a bifoliate growth, and as far as I'm aware, Rhyncholaelia digbyana produces purely unifoliate growths. I could be wrong, but I'm a little bit unsure about the identity. When it came, it had a few of these little, I don't know if you can see in there, like a little dark spot here. It had a few of these little kind of fungal looking marks on it in the growth there, also up here. They never really spread, so I was never too concerned. I started noticing one of them on a backbulb spreading a few weeks ago, and I went away for a week and I came back and found this situation. This leaf fell off when I picked it up, but just to show you what it looked like. So from a distance you wouldn't know that there was anything wrong with this plant, because this leaf, you know, it looks fine. It's not like it started from a leaf and moved down. It started from at the base of this pseudobulb and then moved up. So this looks pretty nasty. I think that this is a fungal type of rot. Certainly not orange or Awinia like. I'm trying to actually show you guys properly, but you can see it looks pretty fungally to me. Very squishy. I'm going to put some gloves on before proceeding any further. We're going to unpot this and take a look at the roots. It never seems to take off in this setup. This was a bit of an improvised self-watering type semi-hydro. I've got a few roots in the pot. Lots of springtails. But yeah, I'm going to put it into a more suitable container now that I have some available. We're going to talk about it. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, so I've cleaned this washing up bowl and we're just going to empty the contents out. I will probably reuse the lacquer, but I will boil it up first. Okay, so you can see the original roots that it came with have all died off, and it has made some decent new roots. Not a massively extensive root system, but certainly made them. This back bulb, I'm just going to try and clear some lacquer, has actually made new roots. Luckily this is like the oldest, one of the oldest back bulbs, but it does have some roots, which is a bit of a pain, but we might have to just take them off, because looking at it, that rot looks like it's extending down to the rhizome, and we want to get that before it spreads to this next growth here. So got some scissors. These have already been straight through the dishwasher. I clean my tools by putting them through the dishwasher, but before every use I also spray with 70% isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol before use. Just going to let that sit for a couple of seconds, and then we are going to, so first of all what I'm going to do is cut here so that you guys can see like a cross section of the rhizome. So that bulb is completely rotten. Signs of rot when it's not this far are discoloration, and if I press on this bulb it will be extremely squishy. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to disinfect my tools again. I'm going to make another cut further down and see if it's spread right down to the base of the rhizome. So it's getting better, the situation is getting better, but there's still a dark patch in the rhizome. You can see it's not looking particularly good, so I'm going to have to take these roots off, unfortunately, but it is making new growth, so that's fine. And I'm really sorry about all of the lecker noises that you'll be hearing. Just going to cut right at the base of this. So fortunately, we've got it before it's gone into the rhizome that's connecting to the newest growth. So that's good. So clean tissue looks like that, which is amazing. Unfortunately, we have lost some roots, but that was completely necessary. So you can see the bit that I've cut into there. If I can get it to focus, is clean, but the other side is black and squishy. And then the side that I've cut. So I can't identify where this started from, because as you can see, the roots on that growth are healthy. So I have no way of knowing how that started. It's not like it started from the roots up, and the base wasn't sitting in the lecker at all. It was just on, the top layer was dry. So I suspect that it was just movement of an initial infection, which for whatever reason decided to progress at this point. So I'm not going to reuse this lecker now. I'm going to boil this off before I reuse it. While we've got the orchid out of the pot, I'm just going to sterilise my cutting tools again and trim off any of the dead roots from the transition process. Cattleya-types will often lose their roots during transitions. I'll take off all this dead material from around the base of the plant, especially from around that area. So I've taken pretty much all of the back half of the plant's roots off. So we've got some good new roots that were produced by this growth, so that's fine. And these growths haven't started producing roots yet, so they are perfectly primed and ready to start producing roots. So I'm just going to clean up the plant, get rid of all this, and we'll come back. Okay, so we are back with our Rhyncholaelia digbyana, and I have cut away all of the affected area. I actually cut a little bit deeper into the rhizome there because I found a little streak of dark that I didn't like, and any darkness that you leave can potentially spread. I've also then done a little very quick antifungal soak with my systemic antifungal mixture, which I'll just show you. So the antifungal that I use is this stuff, and the active ingredient in it is tebuconazole and trifloxystrobin. So I usually use the concentrated form of this, but I couldn't find it, so I used the ready-made stuff that I had. Just soaked the area and the surrounding bulbs just in a little bit of that for an hour. So I've let it kind of semi-dry. It's not fully dry yet, but I'm now going to apply some cinnamon to the affected area and then let that dry for another couple of hours. Just put loads of that on, and what I do then is I just leave that with loads just sat on there, and I'll just leave that for a couple of hours, and then when I come back I'll tip the excess off, and that way it'll just dry out the affected area and leave it to kind of callus over, so it'll stop. When I put it back into the pot, if there's anything in there, it'll have already kind of formed a bit of a seal and dried out the wound, so there's not like a fresh open wound that I'm then putting into contact with media and watering around. So we're going to leave that and then come back. Okay, so we're back a few hours later and should be nicely dry by now. So I'm just going to tap off any excess and just literally leave it like that. Cinnamon's a desiccant, so if this was an area where new root tips would be coming out, I would probably want to be trying to remove some of the excess around here, but all the new root tips are going to be coming out towards the front of the plant, so at the back here we're fairly safe in terms of that. So then we're going to pot it up and make sure to keep the rhizome kind of above the media, which we kind of do anyway. So I'm going to position it in the pot like that and then just fill around with media. So that's positioned in the pot, but obviously the roots now are mainly at the front of the pot, whereas the back end is kind of like quite floppy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my improvised version of rhizome clips, which are actually just hair grips. I'm going to squeeze that into the pot. So that's positioned how I want it to be. And I don't tend to leave these on for very long because I don't like the thought of them rusting. Just to stabilise orchids, they're perfect. So I just use a long hair clip like that as a rhizome clip. There you go. And obviously they are designed to grip by their nature, so that just helps to stabilise the orchid while it gets more roots into the pot and settles in. And I will remove that at a later date because I don't want that rusting, but I've had quite a lot of success doing it that way. So that's my version of a rhizome clip. So I'm now just going to put a top layer of decorative pebbles on, which will help to trap more moisture underneath and provide like a non-porous top layer that won't desiccate roots, although I think this orchid was doing okay. A lot of Cattleyas are very resilient. I have had a few bifoliate, more fussy Cattleyas that like a bit more moisture that have difficulty with the dry top layer, but most Cattleya-types, which includes the Rhyncholaelias, seem to be quite resilient in the root department. So I'm just going to pop the pebble top layer on. Okay, so that is all done, and you may have noticed recently, and I have said in a few previous videos, I've started putting a larger pebble top layer on, because for thicker rooted orchids I was finding that the small horticultural grit top layer was blocking access of the roots, whereas larger pebbles obviously have more gaps, so it means I have to do a slightly thicker top layer I think to get the same effect, but roots can access through them quite easily. So I'm just going to show you the area that we have amputated from, which is just that, and I'm going to be leaving that nice and clear, and I'm actually just going to leave that cinnamon on there. It's not going to do anything, it's just a desiccant. It's like forming a seal and drying out the wound, but obviously that is being left well above the media, so that should be absolutely fine. Hopefully we won't have any more problems. What I will need to do is keep an eye on the little mark that we have on this bulb, because for some reason marks that it had when I got it have started spreading recently. So it could be that with the orchid putting out these two new growths, maybe it's diverting energy away from kind of immune system. I'm not sure. Sometimes I notice this when orchids are flowering, they suddenly become more susceptible to things. So maybe it's trying to think about flowering or something while they're diverting energy away from kind of maintenance and normal growth. So keep an eye on it. Might need to take this one off too if we notice something spreading, because it's not, that dark spot isn't in a position that I can just easily just cut away. That would need to be removed. Whereas the ones on the leaves, you can obviously just take the leaf off if you notice it start to spread. On pseudobulbs, you cut the pseudobulb in half maybe, but that's right at the base. So I'll just need to keep an eye on this one because it's obviously maybe a bit susceptible to infections at the moment. I'm not sure. My humidity has actually dropped now compared to what it was over winter. I'm more frequently seeing humidity of around 50%, whereas over winter it was much higher. So I'm not sure, but we've sorted it out this time, and I will keep a close eye. And luckily it was on the back end of the plant, so we've saved that in time. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it interesting and informative, even if it wasn't necessarily the worst case of rot ever. I felt like it was a good opportunity to film it and film how I remove it. So I hope that's been informative for you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a like or subscribe to my channel for more regular orchid updates, and I will see you guys later. Bye!